With 10 important vitamins and minerals, it's part of this balanced breakfast. Cocoa Puffs.
Fruity Pebbles, a big tasting part of this complete breakfast. Try a spoon, Bon. Fruity Pebbles.
Be happy, be healthy.
So they can be great part of a complete breakfast.
Seriously?
I love me Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, part of this good breakfast. Crave those crazy squares.
The great taste of Kellogg's Fruit Loops.
Follow your nose.
Hello, my name is Alton B. Chambers IV, and my presentation is entitled Breakfast Cereal or Breakfast Cereal. The choice is yours. A statistical analysis of responsible marketing strategies across the U.S.-centric cereal brands and conjecture with nutritional content. Cereal, cereal, cereal. Seemingly the easiest aisle to locate in the grocery store and the hardest aisle to try to leave empty-handed. Eating cereal not only in the United States, but in countries worldwide for breakfast and even as a snack has become increasingly common. As of 2017, 43% of consumers in the United States eat cereal for a snack and 89% eat cereal for breakfast. As the prevalence of eating cereal for breakfast increases domestically and globally, it is imperative to observe the target consumers for many cereal brands, which are typically children and or the parents of children. Breakfast cereal brands in the United States are most aggressively and most frequently targeted towards young children and are usually the least nutritionally balanced. With companies such as Kellogg spending close to $800 million on advertising, it implies reason to study the strategies companies are utilizing. By studying the various marketing strategies, process methodology, grain types, there is a possibility of not only finding the best methods and strategy for selling breakfast cereal, but also being able to construct strategies to utilize for selling breakfast cereals with more functional benefits. Going down the cereal aisle in almost any grocery store, Kellogg's dominates most of the shelf space. I was fortunate to be selected for an internship at Kellogg's Research and Development headquarters in Battle Creek, Michigan. Here, I was able to watch numerous products within the Kellogg product portfolio, including a few varieties of cereals such as Rice Krispies and Mini Wheats get created. Within the Research and Development building, there was an area called the Food Hub, which had shelves of all Kellogg's cereals and snacks, including some cereals that hadn't even been released to the general public yet. Within this area, one can truly see the diversity of colors, mascots, health claims, cereal materials, and processing methods that help to lay the foundation for this selected topic. It is the hope of this study to achieve the objective set and provide a usable model implementation for cereal brands. But firstly, what is a breakfast cereal? Now, I know what you must be thinking. Before the initiation of my own project, this question was one that was never brought into question. Like, who asks what a breakfast cereal is? But still, to put it simply, breakfast cereals are processed grains such as corn, oats, rice, and wheat for human consumption. Typically served with milk with the intended goal of being eaten in the morning, but not limited to just the morning, as previously mentioned, and a lot of people eat them as snacks. Next, we'll be talking about the data collection and sampling. A total of 115 unique breakfast cereals samples were found. Data was taken from companies that made the breakfast cereal utilizing the data set created. The selected breakfast cereals came from 4 companies: Kellogg's, Post, General Mills, and Quaker Oats. These 4 companies produced the majority of breakfast cereal options in the U.S.-centric market. A 2017 statistical report reported that Kellogg owns approximately 30% of breakfast cereal market share, with General Mills coming in at a close second at 29.85%, Post Holdings 18.29%, and all other private labels at 7.48%. For the sampling method, stratified random sampling was utilized. Firstly, all cereal brands owned by Kellogg's, Post, General Mills, and Quaker Oats will be listed according to the company and recorded in a sampling frame. This will be repeated for all collected cereal brands to be grouped by variables of color of the box, type of mascot, target population, and cereal processing method. Considering the number of samples, a random selection of 100 unique cereal brands was selected from a combination of each company and qualitative variable categories. Now, to extrapolate as much information and conclusions from the collected data, we must take into account the variables. Several quantitative and qualitative variables will be utilized. Firstly, the qualitative variables. With these variables being the primary agents used by cereal companies in question to sell their products, qualitative variables take precedence. The qualitative and quantitative variables were selected based on what were the main tools/techniques that would lead to a consumer purchasing this particular cereal product. The first qualitative variable is color of the box. Next is the target population, denoting the population targeted concerning marketing, either children, indulgence seekers, health-conscious individuals. Next is mascot type, which ranges from humanoid to animal-esque like Tony the Tiger, living embodiments like the Cinnamon Toast Crunch creatures, and then none. Next is processing methodology, converting the method by which cereal becomes its final form that consumers would eat. Examples include puffing, like Rice Krispies, flaking, like Frosted Flakes, and extrusion, like Fruit Loops. Lastly, for qualitative variables in the cereal grain type, which refers to the cereal grain utilized as a main ingredient within the breakfast cereal, such as corn, rice, wheat, and oats, and barley. And with these conclusions that will be drawn from analyzing the qualitative variables, the utilization of quantitative variables will allow for a complete conclusion to be drawn concerning if there is any correlation between the breakfast cereal composition, the mascot type, and the target population with selected nutritional variables, such as the calories and the total carbohydrates. The economic variables, such as the price of the respective cereals for each unique breakfast cereal. The quantitative variables to be tested is the number of calories, the number of carbohydrates, and the price USD. The categorical variables in which these will be compared to or tested in conjecture with consists of the color of the box, processing methodology, target population, mascot type, and grain type. The mean bar charts were assessed utilizing a horizontal line test, which can signify the presence of a significant difference among variables tested. Conjectures were deduced from analyzing possible differences across quantitative variables of price USD, total carbohydrates, and calories and kilocalories. Due to the possibility of skewing in the data, the use of side-by-side bar plots were used. To determine the linear relationship between quantitative variables, scatter plots were created with the inclusion of best fit lines to display the strength and direction of linear relationships of certain groups of qualitative and quantitative variables. In order to determine the normality of the distribution of the data in the scatter plots, QQ plots were generated. The standard deviation, standard error, means, final number summary, and were utilized to summarize the quantitative variables within the study. Lastly, ANOVA was utilized to analyze the various groupings of specific quantitative variables in relation to specific qualitative variables, such as the qualitative variables of color of the box, with conjecture with things such as target population, with the quantitative variable of that of total carbohydrates. So here, as you can see, are the four hypotheses presented for the presentation. Firstly, there will be no statistical difference between the mean price USD of the processing methods utilized. Number two, there will be a statistical difference between the mean total carbohydrates and calories of a population targeted. Number three, there will be a correlation between the total carbohydrates and the calories in the sample breakfast cereals. And number four, there will be a statistical difference between the number of calories and carbohydrates between the cereal brands with a mascot and cereal brands without a mascot. So moving into hypothesis number one. Here we see side-by-side box plots of price USD by processing method as a base established of deducing the possibility of statistical difference between the processing method as well as determine any skewing occurring. The mean standard deviation and final number summary were generated as well. As you can see, here is a side-by-side bar graph with error bars, which displays the horizontal line to conduct the horizontal line test. And due to the line not touching two bars at the same time, it signifies that there is a statistical difference. Now, to confirm, ANOVA was utilized due to processing method having more than two categories. The p-value generated was 0.1518, which led to the decision that while using a 0.05 level of significance, we failed to reject the null hypothesis. The sample data does not support the claim that there is a significant difference in the average price of breakfast cereals across the processing methods. Now we're moving into hypothesis number two. The side-by-side box plots of calories by target population and total carbohydrates by target populations were used as the basis establishment of reducing the possible statistical differences between the different types of target populations, as well as determine any skewing occurring. As seen here are the side-by-side bar graphs with error bars, which displays a horizontal line to conduct the horizontal line test. And due to the line touching two bars, it signifies that there is not a statistical difference occurring. To confirm this, ANOVA was then utilized due to target population, again having more than two categories. The p-value generated for total carbohydrates by target population was 0.01052, and the p-value generated for calories by target population was 0.000464, which led to the decision while using a 0.05 level of significance to reject the null hypothesis in favor of the alternative hypothesis presented here. The sample data supports the claim that there is a significant difference in the mean calories and total carbohydrates of breakfast cereals across the target population. And here we move into our hypothesis number three. To determine the linear relationship between the quantitative variables of total carbohydrates and calories, a scatter plot was created with the inclusion of a best fit line to display the strength and direction of the linear relationships. In order to determine the normality of the distribution of the data in the scatter plots, a QQ plot was generated with a correlation effect of 0.854. The strength of the relationship between total carbohydrates and calories is very strong and positive. With the QQ plot, the residuals are light-tailed and display a left skew, which signifies that data may not and is not normally distributed. Slide 28 here, we see the graph to the left displays the residuals versus the fitted for total carbohydrates and calories. And the graph to the left displays the residuals as a box plot. Now we move into our last hypothesis, hypothesis number 4. Displayed here are side-by-side box plots of mascot types broken down against the total carbohydrates and calories. And what I mean by broken down, we see that each different type of mascots that we tested here, which is animal S, humanoid, living embodied, and then of course none. So next we see the side-by-side bar plots of mascot types in the form of side-by-side mean bar plots. Utilizing a horizontal line test, the line does not touch 2 error bars, signifying a significant difference occurring in this data set for both categories of carbohydrates and that of calories. Displayed are the test statistics, p-value, and normality. In order to conduct further analysis, the mascot viability will simplify to just mascot and no mascot. A two-tailed test or t-test was then utilized for the collection of the test statistic and p-value, and a Shapiro test was ran to test for normality. There was no normality for any of the variable pairs tested. The standard deviation and mean were then calculated in R for both categories of mascot and no mascot. Due to the simplifying of the mascot category, new mean bar plots had to be generated. The total carbohydrates by mascot type displayed to the left skew for mascot and a symmetrical skew for no mascot, while for calories by mascot type, the only category to change was mascot, which was now right skewed. Displayed here are the side-by-side mean bar plots, and utilizing a horizontal line test, the line does not touch 2 error bars, signifying a significant difference occurring. Due to the generated p-value for total carbohydrates being 0.005637, which is less than the alpha of 0.05, led to the decision to reject the null hypothesis. That was a lot. That was a lot of statistics moving forward. But now we can talk about the conclusions, really summing it all up to say, what does this all boil down to? As this phase of the study comes to an end, several conclusions with now statistical proof can be confidently made. Hypotheses 1 and 2 were proven incorrect, and hypotheses 3 and 4 were proven to be correct. Next, the price of cereal does not change depending on the color of the cereal box, the mascot type, the grain type, or the target population, or even the processing method. Next, the total carbohydrates and calories amount differ depending on the mascot type, the target population, and the grain type, but not the color of the box. So we do see some correlation between the carbohydrates and calories and then that of a lot of the qualitative variables. Living embodiment mascots have a higher amount of carbohydrates and calories in comparison to animal, humanoid, and no mascot breakfast cereals. And living embodiment mascots are the category which is the highest category targeted towards children. With regards to color of the box, the purple cereal boxes in this study have the highest variation in the number of calories and carbohydrates, both having some of the highest in both categories and some of the lowest as well. Now, with any study, the limitations are absolute, but the researchers have the burden to both minimize, if possible, and acknowledge them for the sake of those interested in reproducing or continuing the study. Within this study, the limitations first begin with the scope and the sample size. The scope was limited to the United States, and in contrast, unique varieties of country-specific cereals and marketing strategies are utilized all around the world. While acknowledging the existence of over 1,000 different and unique breakfast cereals, the usage of certain conclusions drawn in this study from a dataset only containing 115 may display the reasoning for improvements and continuation of the study to verify and expound on conclusions drawn. Now we must look toward the future. Due to the nature of the subject area of the project, there are a plethora of directions the project could progress and improve. Firstly would be to inclusion of cereals from other countries and comparing the marketing strategies on a basis of economics, and also on the uses of culture in marketing. Other qualitative variables such as font type, font size, and color combinations will provide more information. During the final stage of the statistical analysis, an observation concerning the price variable was made, which was that for a more conclusive and beneficial conclusion to be drawn, the variables should be price per serving instead of price of overall breakfast cereal. And I believe this will give us more of a definite picture of the impact or the possible impact of price per serving. Overall, it has been an intriguing and a revealing journey to see how statistical tools and approaches can find patterns within a seemingly random and to others non-commonsensical and give concrete evidence and statistics to affirm and deny the existence of these patterns. Some of the conclusions drawn from a possible continuation of the study may lead to new strategies companies outside of cereal producing companies can utilize statistical evidence of effectiveness. Thank you.
Cereal and milk.